For was perfectly adequate in that field.
The honourable member for Peace River Westlock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to just begin by outlining my family history to some degree. My grandparents both immigrated from the Netherlands separately and were married in Canada. They went on from there to produce a large family of 10 children. I have over 80 cousins now from that set of grandparents, so it's they've been a very productive Canadian family, I'll say that much. I'd like to thank, in particular, two of my aunts who worked tirelessly on my campaign, and I'd like to give them recognition at this point as well. So it was I couldn't be standing here today without their help, that's for sure. So, Mr. Speaker, I rise today to discuss the integrity of some of the proposed changes to our Citizenship Act. The previous Conservative government brought in Bill C-24, the Strengthening Canadian Citizenship Act. The measures enacted in Bill C-24 reinforced the value of Canadian citizenship. It gave us a means to protect our country and our citizens by revoking citizenship of dual nationals who are convicted of terrorism, high treason, and certain spying offences, or who take up arms against Canada. An NRG poll of over 1,000 Canadians showed that 83% of Canadians and 85% of immigrants to Canada supported revoking citizenship from convicted terrorists. Many groups representing new Canadians endorsed this bill. We believe that new Canadians enrich and strengthen our country. Their experiences and perspectives give us stronger immigration and is an important part of who we are as a nation. They are the strength of our nation's future. We want newcomers to Canada to have every opportunity to succeed and to have opportunities for economic success. A constituent of mine, Ray Gallus, a hay farmer from northern Alberta, called me yesterday. He wants the government to focus on the economy so that newcomers arriving in Canada have every opportunity to contribute to our great country. A strong Alberta makes a strong Canada, a place for all to succeed. We also want newcomers to experience many of our freedoms. Old and new Canadians agree that we all want to experience safe communities. Dual nationals convicted of terrorism erode the public safety we all cherish. Mr. Speaker, there are choices when it comes to penalizing dual nationals who are convicted of terrorism. One of them is jail. We also believe that revoking the right of citizenship is a penalty that fits the crime. The legislation that the Liberals seek to repeal this legislation that allows Canada to revoke citizenship of the Toronto 18 convicted terrorist, Zachary Amara. You may remember that Mr. Amara was sentenced to life in prison after admitting his role in the plan to attack sites in Toronto. He was convicted of knowingly contributing to a terrorist group for the purpose of enhancing the ability of the group to carry out an act of terror. In 2007, Canada revoked the citizenship of two Nazi war criminals, enforcing the principle that Canada will not be a safe haven for anyone convicted of war crimes, genocide, or crimes against humanity. The Liberals want to strike down this law, Mr. Speaker. Canadian citizens have a responsibility to embrace Canadian values. Among this responsibility that we all share as citizens is a special responsibility to the preservation of the principles of democracy, human freedom, and that these are cornerstones of our nation. We are a law-abiding, generous, and compassionate country. The measures in the Strengthening Canadian Citizenship Act were enacted to better protect our country, to better combat the ongoing threat that countries worldwide are grappling with. Most of our peer countries have similar legislation in place. I would like to point out that this is the Liberals' first bill dealing with immigration and public safety. It's extremely worrying that under this bill, dual national citizenship cannot be revoked for committing an act of terrorism, but can be revoked for fraud. We are concerned with the Liberals' lack of focus. The ability to revoke citizenship of dual nationals who are convicted of terrorism and similar offenses is a sound, good, and common sense law. It is a law that helps to maintain the integrity of Canadian citizenship. We do not support the Liberals' attempt to weaken our country. We will continue to push to keep our country one of the best countries in the world. Another component that concerns me, Mr. Speaker, is the removal of the requirement for an applicant to continue to reside in Canada if granted citizenship. The intention to reside provision is likely does not restrict mobility rights guaranteed under the Charter. What it does do is reinforce the expectation that citizenship is for those who intend to make Canada their permanent home. This is not an unreasonable expectation. We want to ensure that citizenship applications maintain strong ties to Canada. There is a reason that Canadian citizenship is the most sought-after citizenship in the world. We have a reputation as one of the best places to live, a place where jobs, security, hope, and freedom are available to all. Every year, we receive thousands of applications from people who want to live here. We hope that those seeking Canadian citizenship intend to bring their personal experiences and contributions to our nation, just as many of the immigrants did during the course of our nation's history. The sum of our experiences has made us a better country. We hope that future immigrants will also contribute to our nation and enrich our country by residing here. It is disappointing that the Liberals have chosen to focus on the intent to reside provision when there are more pressing issues in immigration facing us, such as the shortage of applications from skilled labor immigrants. Mr. Speaker, there is yet another bill, C-6 component that gives us cause for concern, and that is the provision that reduces the number of days during which a person must be physically present in Canada before applying for citizenship. Currently, the physical presence requirement is fulfilled if an applicant resides in Canada for only 183 days in 4 out of 6 years prior to making a citizenship application. The Liberal government proposes to change the physical presence requirements to 3 out of 5 years before the date of application. The Conservative Party believes that stringent residency requirements promotes integration and a greater attachment to Canada. We are opposed to any provision that weakens the integrity of a Canadian citizenship, and we recommend that this component be struck from the bill. In yet another component, Bill C-6 seeks to prevent applicants from being granted citizenship while serving under conditional sentences or allowing such time to be counted towards the physical presence requirements for citizenship. We agree that these measures are reasonable and we support this component. We also support the provision that all applicants must continue to meet the requirements of the citizenship until they take the oath, regardless of when their application was received. The Conservative Party believes that the strength of our nation lies in the strength of our citizens. Gaining citizenship by means of fraud undermines our nation and leaves us vulnerable. We support the component that gives citizenship officers the authority to seize fraudulent documents provided during the administration of the Act, including during in-person interviews and hearings. The integrity of our Citizenship Act is not something that we take for granted. Mr. Speaker, if we allow dual nationals who are convicted of terrorism to remain in Canada, to remain Canadian citizens, we weaken our public safety. If we reduce the number of days during which a person must be physically present in Canada before applying for citizenship, we weaken the integration within Canada. In closing, Mr. Speaker, we will examine this bill in detail, but we are extremely concerned about these changes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question.